Welcome to the Coleman Report Live, December the 5th edition. It's good to be here today. I've got Katie and Susie with me, and welcome, Susie. Glad to have you here today. And Katie is with me every week, so it's good to have Katie here as well. Remember, there's a certificate of participation that you can download, print out, and keep in your folder so when the regulators come and ask, what are you doing for SBA training, you have something that you can pop out and say, hey, we're doing Coleman training on SBA. We have we're supposed to have two guest panelists. Susie is the National Business Development Officer with DRDA. She's going to talk a little bit about using retirement plans in a small business start, or not necessarily startup, but using retirement plans as part of the funding for a small business. Susie, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, Lance, thank you. You're correct. Our firm provides a ROB structure we have since 2002. At the recent Naval Conference, there was bullet point number 4 under Hot Topics was the ROBS issue. So what has transpired, what Diana Seaborn shared with us, is the IRS had put out a pretty bold statement that deals that involved ROBS plans fail more frequently than deals that do not. Diana questioned them and requested their data, and IRS said no. So they started to do their own research and realized that there is no way that these deals are being marked in E-Tran or SBA 1 anywhere that they're ROBS plans. And so we had some good discussions there. There have been some follow-up conversations with SBA and others since then. And on December the 10th, we are going to be, through Coleman Report, hosting a free webinar on the latest and greatest about this ROBS issue.
Susie, just a quick question, because I know that now if a ROBS plan is part of the deal, the loan has to be submitted to the SBA Processing Center in Citrus Heights. Can you reflect a little bit on that for us?
I can. I was, like everybody, very concerned how this was going to impact the timeline on deals getting done. And we were told at the beginning that to anticipate a 4 to 6 week delay. And honestly, in my head, I thought, horseshit, because I figured it would take even longer. But with the lenders I've been speaking with since that occurred, in some cases where they've got a very good credit memo that describes everything that's been done and attaches every document related to the ROBS plan, as well as what the continuing compliance components are going to be, those things are being processed as quickly as 2 to 4 days.
Well, so, Susie, I was curious in my point as a long-term SBA lender and somebody that follows the SOP, why in the world would SBA be interested in sending every deal to Citrus Heights that involves a retirement plan? And I think you clarified that for me. I think they're just trying to gather more information about the deals that have those involved.
That's exactly it. And so Diana's two main concerns that she expressed were, the first thing she said was, so many of these deals are being done and the lender is not aware that there's a ROBS attached. I mean, my hand flew up. You're talking about all my things are coming to me from a lender. But I got to thinking, I'm in a pretty sweet spot, right? Not every person who is helping a client with a ROBS plan is in that same circumstance. And then Diana's next statement was that she feels that the borrower may not be made aware of the strings attached with having a 401k plan as a shareholder. And hand went back up again. Our firm is a CPA firm. We spend an awful lot of time educating surrounding compliance. We're going to notify the client via email, a phone call if necessary. We're CPAs, are used to nagging people. We're going to incentivize them with a guarantee to maintain those compliance steps. So I know that our clients are fully educated on those strings attached, because there are some.
Well, Susie, it sounds like a small business would benefit from working with an organization like yours on this. I know there are others who assist small businesses who maybe, I don't know, when you say strings attached to a ROBS plan, what's the biggest string? that's attached?
So there are several compliance considerations. The 401k plan, it's got tax return every year. And so I teach my lenders, look for their Form 5500 every year, and that will let you know if they're maintaining the compliance piece. They're required to have an annual valuation of the company's stock. I tell the lender, look for that valuation, make sure they're doing those things. But there are more things than that. They've got to offer this program, this participation in the 401k plan to all of their eligible W-2 employees. We make sure they're aware of that. We remind them when it's time to do so and what the steps they need to take following. The corporate reporting requirement, you can't skip your tax return for your corporation or your whole plan is outside of compliance. The people who have rolled into the plan have got to be W-2 employees of this corporation. Only W-2 employees are eligible for a 401k plan. So they've got to be drawing a W-2 salary right out the gate. Now, it may be low in the beginning in what I call skinny startup mode, and that's fine.
Sure.
It's got to be at least something, right? And because the next point of compliance is the person who has rolled into the plan must continue to make regular ongoing contributions into this plan for their own future retirement benefit. A minimum of 1% is our requirement of our clients. The IRS does not like to see these structures set up and used just for one transaction. Their attitude is, if you got a plan, use it. So we help that client navigate through those types of issues.
Thank you, Susan. I'm sorry. Thank you, Susie, for some clarification. Now, all you guys that are on the Coleman Report today, there is a free, is that correct, Susie, webinar on December the 10th that will give you more detail and information about how to navigate SBA loan that includes a Rob's plan. So I highly encourage you to go to the ColemanReport.com and get signed up for that webinar. And thank you very much, Susie, for helping us and being on today.
It's my pleasure, Lance. Thanks so much. I'm going to have to hop, but it's good seeing you guys. Bye.
This is Bill Broderick, and I joined a minute or two late, and I don't mean to interrupt the proceedings, but I just wanted to let you know I was on the line.
Well, we've got, excellent. Bill, we've got Bill Broderick here. He's going to give us some brief information about the National Rural Development Roundtable. I think, Bill, it's at the Cosmos Club, correct?
That's correct. We had our National Rural Lenders Roundtable annual meeting yesterday at the Cosmos Club in Washington, D.C. And it was very interesting because we had the senior leadership from the rural development guaranteed loan programs who made presentations. And in addition, we arranged this year to be joined by the two people at the Office of Management and Budget that review the rural development budgets for the president, and they're part of the executive office of the president. And we had a discussion both about what has been accomplished this year in rural development. And I'm pleased to report that in the building and industry loan program, there were $1.3 billion worth of guaranteed lending that was done during fiscal year 19. We talked about increasing the loan amount in next year's FY21 budget up to $1.5 billion. But the most important thing we had was a discussion about the 1RD rule. And that is an effort on the part of USDA to take 5 existing programs and have one rule that governs them so that lenders and borrowers and employees of the USDA have one place to go. And it will cover the business and industry program. It will cover the community facilities program. It will cover the REAP program, and it will cover what is known as the 9003 program, which is the biodiesel program, and that they will have one rule. There has been some concern that the rule is going to be issued as a final rule with a comment period, but at this point, I think we, as rural lenders, are very much of the opinion that we ought to move forward, because getting everyone to work on this and be on the same page. The rule has been drafted. It is being reviewed inside USDA, and then it will go to the Office of Management and Budget, and then hopefully towards the end of Q1 of 2020, it will be issued as a final rule, and there'll be a 60-day comment period. And those were the highlights of what we learned yesterday. It was a very interesting day, and I think everyone who participated, including myself, learned a lot.
Well, thank you, Bill, for the update on the conference. I know I got to attend a couple years ago, and it's a very valuable experience for me. But thank you so much for bringing this up today.
You bet.
So we've got some poll questions right now. Total gross, for fiscal year 18 to 19, the total gross 7A and 504 loan approval amounts change. It either increased 5 to 10%, increased 0 to 5, decreased 0 to 5, decreased 5 to 10, or decreased more than 10%. And of course, I think we've talked about this in previous sessions, so I look forward to seeing the responses. Yeah, and the decrease was actually between 5 and 10%. So, we had answers all over. There was a decrease in 7A lending during the last fiscal year. The exact percentage was between 5 and 10%. Part of that, I think the decrease in 7A loan funding may have been an increase in 504 funding. Katie, do you remember what the numbers were there? I hate to put you on the spot, but there was a little uptick in 504 lending. Part of that, I think, is related to the refinance rule or us being able to do refis with the 504, but the 7A funding was down slightly. What percentage of your SBA loans were over $2 million? And it's important to note when you look at your PARES score, when your lender reviews come up, this is one of the categories. They look at how many SBA loans you've done that are over $2 million. And when SBA is looking at a loan to review, when they do an on-site or off-site review of your bank, they're going to look at loans over $2 million a certain cut. So we have a pretty interesting mix. Most have less than 30%. A majority has less than 10%. And I'm not trying to discourage you from doing bigger SBA loans, but I would state that one of the greatest things you can do to improve your PARES score and just to improve the risk in your SBA portfolios, have diversity in industry types, but also diversity in loan sizes. For every $3 million loan you have, you need a smaller SBA loan. The ROBs must go to the Center for Processing and cannot be processed using POP designation. That's a true false. I think we answered this poll question earlier in the Coleman report live. Yeah, and everybody's correct. You have to send it to the city. If you have a rollover of a retirement plan as part of a business startup, it's got to go to Citrus Heights for processing. We've got a list of the top 10 SBA lenders by gross loan approval amounts. Live Oak Bank, Wells Fargo, these are and Newtek, Huntington National Bank. These are lending institutions that you see on this list year in and year out. And again, top 10 lenders by number of loans. You see some different people here. A lot of SBA participant lenders are taking advantage of the smaller credit scored loans, and they generate a tremendous volume of numbers of loans that are approved. That's our secondary market pricing information. The only comment I have here is the premiums selling the guaranteed portion of SBA loans are still very good. The 504 debenture issue rates are still very, very low. Both offer great opportunities for participant SBA lenders. Secondary Market Summit's coming up January the 8th. I've gotten to participate in the summit 2 or 3 years. Senator Risch is coming back. He's a great speaker, so I encourage you to go to Coleman Report Live to get signed up for that. Katie, you want to talk about Okram and their failure to perform effective oversight? Okay, I'll do a report.
Sorry, Dan, muted. So basically on November 12th, 2019, the SBA OIG released a report which presented the results of an audit of the SBA's oversight of high-risk lenders. And that audit took into consideration the fact that they found Okram had only conducted 250 of its 308 planned reviews. They didn't explain why they did not conduct more of the reviews that they had planned, and they didn't effectively communicate how they should prevent problems in the future, and they didn't communicate the problems to the SBA's loan approval and purchase centers. So these are the problems that you're seeing on the screen are things that they determined are part of what caused the issues that they found, why they maybe didn't do all of their reviews. And we're just expecting now to see new policy changes spring 2020.
Excellent, excellent. I think that SBA has changed the review process a little bit, and it would seem to me they'd want to get out and review all of the high-risk lenders.
So
Katie, my favorite topic. Go ahead and tell us about these marijuana businesses.
This is a really interesting case that was presented in the SBA's OIG semi-annual report that came out in October. And what they were saying was in June 2019, the SBA issued a notice of suspension to 3 marijuana business entrepreneurs that prohibit their participation in SBA programs. And it's just really quite a story here. In 2014, 2 men formed a property firm to purchase commercial real estate for the purpose of creating a marijuana dispensary. And they employed the help of a broker who was both the broker for the buyer and the seller. That broker got involved and became actually a business partner himself. And then the 3 men applied for a marijuana license for this location that they purchased, and they weren't successful with that. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, one of their co-conspirators, a female partial owner, was able to lie to the Department of, I don't know exactly what it's called here, the marijuana license department. She told the department that their startup financing was coming from just one of the entrepreneurs. Instead, it was coming from all 3 men. And since she did that, only one of the men were vetted as financiers. So that leaves 2 of them that were not vetted at all. So then in November 2014, while the marijuana business was still being made, the 3 men obtained a $1.5 million SBA loan under the false pretense that they were opening a new restaurant. The true purpose of the loan was to, in fact, open a marijuana dispensary. And as we all know, that is not allowed with SBA financing. So now they're being investigated by the SBA OIG, the Washington State Liquor and Marijuana Department, and the Department of Justice.
Yeah, guys, the lesson from this incredible story is you cannot lend money on marijuana-related businesses, whether it's medicinal or recreational, nor can you lend money on property that houses that. And that comes into play, Katie, when you have a building that, say, they operate a business and 51% of it, and their leasing out 49%, which is acceptable in SBA lending, but that 49% cannot be leased to a marijuana-related business. So guys, real quick, we're going to try to finish up here. It's been great having you on here. Again, on the 10th, the rollover plans are going to be discussed. That's a free webinar. There's a Coleman Industry Series webinar on C-stores. Everybody needs to understand C-store lending. And of course, as we found out from Katie a week or two ago, the most common type of SBA loan last year was business acquisition loans. So we're going to have a business acquisition training on December 17th, and then underwriting funeral homes on December 18th. That's kind of a dead. No, I'm just teasing. Good time. Certified loan training is coming out. The award-winning closer class, underwriting, and SBA Express are going to start on January the 2nd. Make sure and get your staff signed up for that. And of course, you use Coleman Live promo code to get $100 off for that. Other upcoming events, really encourage y'all to participate in these lender conferences. I'll be at a couple of these this year. Have always enjoyed those. So please find one in your area and participate, meet fellow lenders and SBA staff. Also, don't ever forget the incredible information you get from the Coleman Report, NAICS report, and franchise report. I use it all the time in considering potential SBA loans. And also the compensation survey. SBA lenders are really incredibly competitive field, Katie. And as a bank or financial institution trying to attract good SBA people, you need to know what they're going to get paid, and that's available at Coleman as well. Guys, I know you missed Bob today. He's somewhere in the middle of the ocean on a nice trip. He'll be back with us next week. Katie, thank you for all your valuable input, and thank you, lenders, for participating in Coleman Report Live. We'll see you next week.
See ya.